Hi everyone, great to see so many people. Welcome to this focus session, We Save Lives on the Roads. So, this is an eye, and as everyone knows, the eyes are the mirror of the soul. By looking at someone's eyes, you can learn their state of mind, and that's exactly what we do at Tobii. We work with eye tracking. My name is Annika Borgström. I work as a product owner at Tobii Automotive.
And my name is Redz, and I also work as a product owner at Tobii Automotive.
So let me show you what we do at Tobii with this technology. For example, you can do consumer research. You can look at shopper behavior, product packaging, ads. You can do UX research. Some of it you can see in our booth, just along the corridor, that direction. From this research, you can get heat maps where you can actually see exactly where people look. You can also use eye tracking for training and skills assessment. For example, at an assembly line, where you can compare how experienced workers work and beginners. You can also look into the more accident-prone workers and see why they are more accident-prone than others. Eye tracking can also be used in scientific research. For example, psychology and neuroscience research at universities. Here you see the Pro Spectrum tracker. It has a very high frequency and one of the cutest research subjects that are used for eye tracking, babies. It's very good because they can't really tell you where they look. So eye tracking is very good to use. Then we also have extended reality, or XR, where you can use eye tracking for gaming or training to make the subject feel more immersed. And in the picture you see the new PSVR2 headset for PlayStation, where Tobii eye tracking is used. In VR, you can use something called foveated rendering to make sure that you render the picture with high resolution where the user is looking and lower resolution where the user is not looking. And this will save you a lot of computation power in your headset. Then, something you might recognize, gaming for PC. I think all of you saw Milla Sjöstrand with her Eye Tracker 5 that she practices racing with. This is what she uses. In games, you can get features as aim at gaze, extended view, or clean UI. Or you can do as Milla does. You can use the bubble, the Tobii Ghost, for others to see and for yourself to see where you're looking. And this is very good when you have viewers, like in esports or when you're a streamer. And then we also have personal computing, where we use a webcam. This can improve your everyday work life, working from home or at the office with privacy and security, intelligent video conferencing, and also improve your well-being. So these are some of all the things we do at Tobii. But what do we do? This is what we do. We work at Tobii Automotive, and this is our demo car, Yeti. Maybe you met her. She's parked right outside by the entrance. And she's ready to show you what we do. All our software is inside, and we have a great demo. So if you haven't already tried, there's a break right after this. So I really recommend you to go down and meet Yeti and our colleagues and see with your own eyes what we do. So we're very happy to be here today to tell you the story about the Tobii Driver Monitoring System, or the Tobii DMS, that we intend to save lives with by using our knowledge around eye and head movement. Maybe you ask yourself, do we really need more software in cars? I mean, it's already a lot of software in a car, and it might malfunction or needs updates, or do we need more software? And I will leave you with this video, and then we can have another go at that question.
thunderstorms. Just think about, what am I doing right now?
Smile. Smile?
Uh-huh.
This is so easy.
I would say yes. We need more software in cars, at least until they're all self-driving. So, 115. If you're not too shocked from the horrible video, maybe you can make a guess. What's this number? It's the number of people that will be killed in traffic accidents in the world while we do this talk. World Health Organization estimates that 1.35 million people die in traffic every year, and I guess that's an understatement. There's probably a big hidden number to this. The European Union has an idea on how to improve this, because this number needs to decrease. So there is a new general safety regulation from the European Parliament that puts requirements on motor vehicles. There's also a standard emerging in China called GBT, so it's not only in Europe that we're working in this. This new regulation applies to cars, buses, trucks, and dangerous goods carriers. And as you can see here, it will come into effect in July 2024 for all new type approvals, and in July 2026 for all new registrations. And the requirement is that all these vehicles that I mentioned, they have to have a camera-based driver monitoring system that detects driver drowsiness and attention and warns when it's not good enough for driving. That's perfect, because that's exactly what the Tobii DMS does. So the law is in place. What's next? How do we know if cars comply to this new regulation? Maybe you recognize this crash test dummy marker and the 5 stars. These are the logos of Encap, European New Car Assessment Program. It's a voluntary car safety performance program. And by looking at the car's different features, they are rewarded points. And these points are in turn converted to the stars that we all know about. So there are 4 different protocols for Euro Encap: adult occupant, child occupant, vulnerable road users, and safety assist. And it's in the safety assist where we are active. Driver drowsiness and attention warnings, which is exactly what the European Parliament requirement is mentioning. In daily talk, we say drowsiness and distraction. So, what is a DMS? What is a driver monitoring system really? It's a camera that's facing the driver. And the camera images are translated into streams of driver state signals. This means that we can assess the alertness and warn accordingly if the driver is not fit to drive. This means that it will fulfill the new regulations and standards. Maybe you've also heard about something called OMS. That's the Occupant Monitoring System. That's one or more cameras that looks at the rest of the car to do other clever things, but not regulated by law. For example, the OMS can detect if a person has the seat belt behind them. They are buckled up, but the belt is not running on the front of their body, but they have it behind their back. Or it can trigger the correct airbags depending on the person's body position. If I'm sitting like this in the window, maybe it's not super clever to trigger the airbag, because then I will get my arm in my face. That's also super interesting, but we focus at DMS for now. So, looking at the automotive industry, Tobii is relatively new in the automotive industry, so how do we fit in this big new world? The automotive industry can be seen as a pyramid, and at the top you have the car manufacturers. You have Volvo, BMW, Volkswagen, and they need to buy subsystem from the tier 1 suppliers. Autoliv, Lear, or Bosch maybe. They sell their subsystems to the car manufacturers, but they don't build everything in those subsystems themselves. They need the tier 2 suppliers to help them with their expertise, and that's where we are. You can make this pyramid any height you want with any number of levels or tiers. And at the very bottom, you have the nuts and bolts and screws and tiny, tiny pieces that make up your car. So that's the background or foreground. Let me hand over to Anna to tell you about the inside of the Tobii DMS, all the magic.
So my name is Anna Redz, and this is a portrait of me, or rather a close-up of me. I'm a product owner together with Annika, but until quite recently I was a developer and a Scrum Master, and I've been working on the Tobii DMS system from the very beginning. And I want to share some parts of our journey in developing this system. But let's start with Tobii. Tobii is all about eyes. Where are you looking? I mean, we've been around for 20 years approximately, but eye tracking is a lot older than that. Eye tracking has been around for roughly 100 years. People have been curious of where are you looking? Where's your visual attention? How does the brain work when we look somewhere? And there are lots of different ways to figure out where a person is looking. And the first one I usually think of is actually based on hardware. And it's a metal coil that you have like a contact lens in your eye, but it's not like a contact lens because you've got two wires coming out from the contact lens. These you connect to measuring equipment. Then you place the subject in a magnetic field. And when you move the eye, you induce a current. You can measure that current, and then you can figure out where the person is looking. That's quite cool, isn't it? I haven't tried this myself, and people who have, I've read that they explain it or describe it as everything from unpleasant to actually painful. I'm sure that the modern versions of this are better than the older ones, but still, I think that you can realize that this is probably okay for scientific research, but for a consumer product, no way. So we need to have some other approach to eye tracking. And the good news is that there are other approaches, and they are image-based. And one of the most common image-based systems is called PCCR. It stands for Pupil Center Cornea Reflection, yeah, whatever. But this is a system or an algorithm that Tobii uses quite a lot. Let me explain. So we have a camera and an illuminator. Think of it as a flash. They are using the infrared spectrum, so they're invisible to the human eye, and they take images of your eyes. And the images look something like the above. In the image, you can see my pupils, and close to the middle of the pupils, you can see the reflection of the illuminator. This is called a glint. And by taking these images, detecting where the pupil is, where the glint is, knowing the geometry of eyes, and also knowing the geometry of the camera and where the illuminators are with respect to the camera, this becomes actually a geometrical problem that you can solve. And you can figure out where I'm looking. And this works quite well, actually, under some conditions. So this requires the glint, the reflection, to be quite good. And the reflection is good as long as it's on the cornea. And the cornea is the part of the eye approximately covered by the iris. When the glint ends up on the sclera, the white part of the eye, then you get a really bad reflection. And also, all the assumptions you have made about the geometry of an eye are no longer valid. And the glint ends up on the sclera when you no longer are looking at the camera or the illuminators. So if we look what this means in a car. So we've got a car interior here. The yellow dot is where I've placed the camera and the illuminators. And the white ellipse is the region where we would have good eye tracking, where we could detect people's gaze if we use this PCCR system. So imagine you're a driver, you're sitting here, and you are looking straight ahead. You see that your gaze is approximately on the edge of the white ellipse, which means that we could probably detect your gaze there, maybe not. This isn't good enough. And even if we move the camera to some other position, you can see that the region is quite small. Because this is the region that we would like to cover in a car. I mean, from the, the left mirror in the car to the right mirror in the car, from the rear view mirror in the middle, down to the infotainment system. I mean, we have to cover all of that to know when you are looking on the road and when you're not looking on the road. I know that some of you here are thinking that, haha, I know what to do. We should put 2 cameras or 3 cameras and lots of illuminators. That's actually a solution. Good thought. But it doesn't sell well. The tier 1s that Annika was talking about, they're expecting one little box that they can integrate. They'll refuse to integrate several cameras because it's complicated and also it costs money. So, might work, but won't sell. We have to be able to solve this problem with a little box. And that's why we decided to go to deep learning instead of doing traditional algorithms. If you look at literature and see how people have used deep learning to find out where people are looking, you usually find the following solution. You have an input image, and you feed it to a network, to a neural network. And you feed it to a feature extractor. It extracts features, and it's usually facial landmarks. So it's the corners of your mouth, the corners of your eyes, and also some vague points that outline your chin and cheeks. When you've done that, you take your facial landmarks, you put them into the next network, and that network extracts the signals you're interested in. This has several problems, because the first step for the feature extractor, you need to, when you train the network, you need to annotate lots and lots of images. You have to take the image and you have to draw in the mouth corners, the eye corners, and all of these landmarks. So it becomes a very annotation-heavy task to do. And also, if your network fails to find these facial landmarks, then it will fail to find the signals that you're interested in. And it also becomes quite cumbersome to test the system, because as soon as you change one little part, say that you change something in the feature extractor, you have to test the whole chain. So this made us rethink this approach. And we came up with this instead. We have the same image as input, and we input it to a deep neural network. It does everything. So this is both a simpler and a more complicated solution than the one above. We let the network decide by itself what is important in a face and what isn't important in a face. Because maybe the things that we think are important aren't important for the neural network, and vice versa. And then this means that this system is a lot more robust than the one above. It's also easier to test. But it has one drawback, and it's when you train this network, you need to feed it a lot of data, a lot of images, a lot of different kinds of images. So after quite some work on data collection, on annotations, designing the training framework, etc., building a product, we ended up with the following. This is a video of our product manager trying out the car. He's sitting in Yeti. So once again, go out and visit Yeti. He's putting on a cap. He's putting on a face mask, which is more common now than before COVID. And he will start the car soon. And you'll see some inlays or overlays in the video here, just to make it easier for you to see. You see his face and you see the head pose. That's where his head is in space and what direction it's pointing, which is an important signal for us. Then you see the overlays with the electric blue drawings, and that's to indicate where he's looking in the car. And you can see that he copes with all the rear view mirrors. So this is an experimental system, as you can see. This is not what the final product will look like, of course. The final product won't be visible for anybody. And you won't notice it at all. Unless you're misbehaving in a car and not doing what you're supposed to be doing and looking at the road, then it will actually warn you, or if you're falling asleep. Which is exactly what it's meant to do. So we want to design a system, or we have designed a system, that should work for everybody. Doesn't matter what color you are, what gender you are, where you come from, what eye shape you have, which is really important for us. It should work. Even if you're a superwoman, this should work perfectly well. But that also means that we have to train our system on all possible kinds of data. And also, it doesn't end with how you look. It depends. I mean, you can put on a hat, a cap, as you saw in the video. If you're going home, you've been skiing, you've got your ski helmet on. It should still work. When I started working with it, I thought that, okay, people are different, but thank God the car interior looks basically the same. I mean, cars look more or less the same inside. And yeah, they look very similar, but I forgot about the different light conditions that you're driving in. You can have bright sunlight. You may have a convertible even. You may be driving in the dark, or you're driving along lots of trees, so you've got flickering light. And it changes the image so much, you couldn't imagine. And then you've got different things outside the window also. Neural networks and deep neural networks, I usually think of them as really good at interpolating between pictures it's seen. But it's quite bad at extrapolating and sort of thinking anew, which means that we have to collect image data that spans the whole range of images that we want to be able to cope with. And that is a challenge. And there's some other insights that we got when we were developing. The first is that if you have a traditional algorithm and you want to develop, you take a look at a picture, you discuss what problem you want to solve, and you start designing the algorithm. You test it on some other pictures, you sort of, yeah, this works, this doesn't work. And then at the end, you sort of have some test data that you tested on and see, yeah, it works fine. You fix some thresholds. But when working with deep learning, you can't have that approach. You sit down and you discuss your problem. Then you discuss what data you need. Because that's what you'll be doing for the next half year, collecting data. And you want to make sure that you collect the right data. Because you don't want to stand there after 3, 4, 5 months and realize that you've been collecting the wrong data. Once you've got the data, then you can train your network and you can see how it works. The next big difference is debugging. That's why I have a nice bug here. When you put an image in, and in a traditional algorithm, and you get a result that you don't really expect, or it doesn't seem right, you follow the logic, and you see, oh, that's where the error is, because you can follow the logic through the algorithm. With deep learning, you put the image into the black box, and you get a result that you don't expect, and you just stand there, so, okay, what now? That's where data comes in again. You need lots of data because you have to feed it lots more data to see, are there any other images that fail in the same way? Yeah, look, there are. What do these images have in common? Why does this fail? So you work more with statistics and slicing data than with anything else. So you have to be very comfortable with your statistics. Driver monitoring doesn't end here. You heard Annika describe other things that you can do with driver monitoring. If with driver monitoring the interior of the cabin, I mean, the airbags is one example. There are lots of other things that you can do. And they are mainly to increase safety. And I know that many people are concerned about having a camera watching them when they drive. And I understand that, because it's an integrity issue. It's your privacy. We do not want to develop a system that sends images somewhere else, that saves the images and does things with them that you don't want to do. We want to develop a system that makes our roads safer by warning you there and then. Before handing back to Annika, I just want a comment. I want to make a comment. In one of the sessions previously, they were talking about why they get up on Monday mornings and how fun it is to go to work. When I finished my studies, somebody came to me and said that if on the majority of your Monday mornings you wake up and say, "Yay, I'm going to work," you know you're in the right place and you've got the right job. And the majority of my Monday mornings, I wake up and I say, "Yay, I'm going to work." Because I'm doing something that's real fun. I've got fantastic colleagues, and I feel that I can make a difference. And I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you. I also like to go to work on Mondays, and I also have nice colleagues. So another number, 90%. What do you think this is? It's the number of traffic accidents that are caused by the human factor. And since we're not going to all of us have self-driving cars just anytime soon, or flying cars or something, we need to do something about this. And we want to participate in improving this by making the human factor less of a risk in traffic. If we find when people fall asleep or have some sudden illness or are distracted by a baby screaming in the back seat, if we can warn them and make them be safer drivers, then I really feel that we do something at work that makes a difference. So the key elements of achieving this is to be able to detect and warn drowsiness and distraction. And that's how we aim to save lives on the roads. So if we connect back to this day's theme, charged and ready to race, I would say that we are ready to raise the bar for safety in cars, to make cars more safe. And there are two things I want you to take with you from this focus session, and that's Tobii works in automotive and we save lives. And please visit our booth to try all the cool stuff that we have that are not in the car, and then you can walk outside during the break for some fresh air and visit Yeti and our colleagues and try this out yourself and hear the car say right mirror when you look at the right mirror, left mirror when you look at the left mirror, and just see all the nice cables. So we're very happy to be here to tell you about what we do and love at work. Thank you. I think we have time for some questions if you have any questions. Otherwise you can come by. We will be in the booth during the break, so just come and grab us and our colleagues.
It depends on what part of the system it is. It's C++ for the final product. We do things in Python. And then there's a bit of C# there. It depends on... It depends. Yes?
Yes, it works with tinted glasses because people like wearing sunglasses. It's also a good thing for safety in cars to wear sunglasses. And it works, yes.
But then also sunglasses are usually tinted for visible light, but in the infrared spectrum, they may be completely see-through. You never know. Some of them are, some of them aren't, but we cope with them. Yes? Well, that's what we
Maybe
let the
should repeat the question.
Okay.
Oh, we should repeat it so
Yeah,
everyone can
yeah. So how does the deep learning system decide what's important? Well, that's the big benefits of deep learning, is that we don't have to decide for it. We need to feed it lots of different kinds of images so that it can learn. We need to feed it images where we have, where we tell it what output we expect. So we have some kind of a ground truth for it. And then we let the deep learning network have its own states and its own internal states. So I don't know what features it picks out in the face. Maybe it doesn't pick out features in the face in the same way, in the same sense as we think of features. I'll take one last question in the back.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.